Good morning, Spartan Nation. It is Tuesday, April 21st, and I'm so glad once again you joined Miss Craddock for morning meetings with Miss Craddock. Our greeting today is just a quick greet. Mingle around and say good morning to your family and your friends with a fist bump and an elbow bump. Remember, if you can't do this in person, then you could maybe FaceTime someone, use Zoom or any type of platform to give a fist bump, an elbow bump, and wish everyone a good morning. Good morning, White Station. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, and for our morning message we have, Dear WSE students and families, today is Totally Awesome Tuesday. Let's all try to be totally awesome today. We can be totally awesome by having grace and being kind to everyone, no matter if they are kind to you or not. What makes you totally awesome? So that's our question for the day, boys and girls. What makes you totally awesome? Share and discuss traits at home today of qualities that you think make you totally awesome. Miss Craddock would love to hear any answers to our questions and our morning messages, any answers to our brain busters, or anything that you would like to share about our case of the missing jelly beans at craddock@scs-k12.org, and you can find me on the WSE website as well. Have a totally awesome Tuesday, White Station. Love, Miss Craddock. All right, so our last brain buster was, what is as big as you are and yet does not weigh anything? It's your shadow. Give yourself a thumbs up if you guess that your shadow is just as big as you are, yet it doesn't weigh anything at all. Here's our new brain buster. Let me see if I can have some students or teachers or parents email Miss Craddock and see if they can get the answer to today's new brain buster. It is an insect, and the first part of its name is the name of another insect. What insect is it? So think about this one more time, boys and girls. It's an insect. And the first part of this insect's name is the name of another insect. So what insect do you think it is? I want to hear some answers, and I want everyone to kiss their brains for today's brain buster. All right, so here we are, part 3 of the case of the missing jelly beans. Remember that in part 1, there were some clues of some little droppings left in the classroom, and the class realized that the jelly beans were missing when Sarah went to get some jelly beans because her blood sugar was a little bit low. In part 2, Jess lifted some fingerprints off of the jelly bean jar. They even noticed that the little boy who ran into the classroom was Mr. Pratt, the principal's son. So we have some very interesting suspects, boys and girls. Let's read part 3 to find more clues to see if we can crack the case of the missing jelly beans. All right, so I want you to follow along with me as I read part 3. Jess had her original print from the jar, but now was the truly difficult part. She needed to collect a print from all of her suspects. How will I get suspect fingerprints to compare? Jess asked Sarah as the girls walked down the hall after school. Well, Mr. Pratt would have touched everything in his office, but I don't know how to get in there, Sarah replied. Suddenly, Jess started sprinting. Sarah was confused but ran after her. They seemed to be heading off for the staff car park. Jess ran down the car park steps and headed straight for a white BMW. Jess, we shouldn't be in here, said Sarah, feeling nervous. It's much easier than breaking into his office. It'll only take a sec. 5 minutes later, the girls were back on the school oval thinking how to get Pratt's son's prints. This time, it was Sarah's clever thinking. The girls ran off to his school locker and while no one was looking, lifted a single fingerprint off the handle. Who else is a suspect? Sarah asked. Well, we've got Pratt. His son, Jess replied, checking her list. Now we've got to get that rat. The rat? Sarah yelled in surprise. Yeah, the hole in our classroom will have it. Like ninjas, the girls silently crept into the room and found a paw print on the floor. That only leaves one person left, said Jess, pointing to Miss Enos's coffee cup. Now they had their suspects' prints. There was only one thing left to do. They raced back to Sarah's house to compare them. All right, boys and girls, look at the bottom of the tag. The jelly bean jar print that was lifted off the jar. And we see the suspects that Jess and Sarah have created. The boy, Mr. Pratt, the rat, and Miss Enos. I'm wondering if any of those were your original suspects. Take a look at these fingerprints and look at them carefully because in a little bit, in a couple of slides, you are going to be a fingerprint analysis and you are going to compare the fingerprints to see if you can find the one that matches the most. All right, detectives, I want you to think about what you have listened and read about today. Remember, you can go back and pause at any time if you need to do any rereading to find your clues. Think about, talk about, write about a summary of what happened in part 3 of the case of the missing jelly beans. What do you predict happened to the jelly beans? This is going to be your final prediction before we get into part 4 on Thursday. Remember to explain your prediction and justify what clues helped you make this prediction. Your prediction may have changed from the original one from part 1, but that's okay because we've had more clues. The most important part of the investigation today, detectives, is looking at the fingerprint analysis. You see the original fingerprint taken from the jelly bean jar. Who do you think this print belongs to? And explain your thinking of why and how you know. Look at the suspect's fingerprints that Jess and Sarah were able to lift from the boy, Mr. Pratt, Miss Enos, and the rat. And I want you to compare them to see which one matches the most and see if you can identify the main suspect of who you think took the jelly beans out of the jelly bean jar. When we meet Thursday, we will have our last part to see if you are correct in your suspects. I would love to hear any of your main suspects, your predictions, and your justifications at craddock@sesk12.org. Until we meet next time, detectives, we will solve this case of the missing jelly beans. Good luck to you all.